those, so this will be good experience.
There you
Excellent.
go. Yeah. Well, I would definitely recommend if you want to try it, try StreamYard. You can do it for free too, and it's super easy to do this. Um, I've been loving it. So, and they've been doing a whole bunch of updates,
Nice.
which is great. Okay, cool. Stream Elements pops in there, so we must be live on Twitch. Good.
Yep. Looks like we're
Perfect.
live.
All right, awesome. Okay, now let me look at my notes. Okay. Oh, I didn't even ask. Is everybody good with everything in the notes?
Yeah.
Okay.
You got it.
All right. Perfect. All right. Well, if we're ready, I will get us started. All right. Welcome to episode 19 of the TCCG Roundtable. We're your hosts, Dragonrider and RonMexico. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good. We also have a very special guest this week. I'm so excited. We have Jared from Citizens of Lorcana. Thank you so much for joining us.
I am so happy to be here. I'm so excited that you asked me to join you. So I'm ready for this.
Yeah. Well, we usually like to start the show when we have a guest with a little bit of like an interview, small little interview, get to know you a little bit, get some background. So, obviously, this podcast is all about card games. So, we kind of want to know like, what's your history with card games? What got you into cards? What kind of card games have you played? What are you playing now? What do you do with cards? Like any and all of that. We'd love to know. So take it away. Let us know, please.
That is a great question. And when I saw this in the show notes, I was thinking about this. The thing that actually got me into playing card games was Star Wars. My brother and I were really into Star Wars when we were kids, and we lived in a small town. And we went to one of the department stores. It was called ZCMI, and they had like a little Star Wars section. And they had the Star Wars Decipher CCG. They had the Premier set with a light side and a dark side deck, and then they had the Hoth one, and we each got one, and we played the crap out of that. And so that was the beginning of my card game experience. And then over the years, I did play some Hearthstone back in 2019. That was back when they had Saviors of Uldum. I played for probably about a year. And then probably about a year ago, I got into My Hero Academia. But the thing that's really taken my interest right now is Lorcana. And it doesn't come out until later this year. But ever since it was announced at D23, I mean, it's in my name, Citizens of Lorcana. I've just been obsessed with it. And I see Artem said hello. He is the creator of Lorcania.com. Hi, Artem. Thanks for being here.
Yes. Oh, that's amazing. Okay, so you've played multiple card games. Now, I'm kind of curious, like, what? And this isn't in the show notes. This is just like my off the cuff question. What is it about? I guess we could ask this during the main topic, but I'm just kind of curious, like, what is it about Disney Lorcana that kind of has appealed to you, that's attracted you to that over like other card games?
Well, I think it's the right place, the right time type of situation. I had just gotten back into card games. My daughter's really into My Hero Academia, and she begged me forever to watch it with her. And so when I discovered that there was a card game, I got it to play with her so we could do something together. But then I've been a Disney fan my whole life. So when Lorcana dropped, and I saw the images on the card, like they're just beautiful images. They're all original artwork. And so it's the right time, it's the right place. I have disposable income. So all these things came together to just bring me back into this world here. That was a great
Disposable
question.
income's important for for card games.
That's why I always tell people it's not a cheap hobby.
It's not. No.
I love
You have
I love the list of interests you've had so far. We got a lot of intersecting things too. Love to see a Star Wars fan out there. It's fantastic.
I know this is a very divisive subject within the Lorcana fan base, but I would love to see Star Wars integrated into Lorcana. Not immediately, but 5, 6, 7 years down the road, maybe. I don't know, maybe sooner. But I think if they recreated the characters in the same type of artwork, it could integrate pretty seamlessly.
It is a Disney property after all, so
That's right. That's right.
I mean, there's always a window open for that. Maybe it could even be its own like little branch off game too. But it's nice to have some options on the horizon.
Yes, they have plenty of options.
Yes. Okay, so I also want to bring up, ever since at least Lorcana has been announced, you've been doing a lot of like content, right? You have been posting a lot on Twitter. I know you've been doing like some news threads, kind of recapping any news and things that have been posted each week. You also have been doing the meme a day until Lorcana launches, which I have been loving. Those are great. The amount of like creativity that you have to put into those to not like repeat and just do the same thing over and over is amazing. I feel like I'm a creative person and I still look at those like, how does he come up with all these ideas?
I've never thought about that. I just am so absorbed in the community. A lot of my memes are just a reflection on what the community is talking about at that time. So today's meme, it was talking about the amount of franchises that are in Lorcana. And there's like 20 of them. And I'm like, at this point, we're asking what's not in Lorcana versus what is in Lorcana. And I'll tell you my secret. I work at a job where if I'm not seeing somebody, I just have free time. So I have a lot of free time at work that goes into creating those Twitter threads and goes into creating memes. Obviously, the podcasting I have to do at home, but a lot of that, I just like, double dip on my time there. I'm working and I'm doing Lorcana. So I'm pretty blessed that way.
So what I heard was you are getting paid to come up with your Lorcana meme content. I love it.
Not wrong.
It's the dream right there.
It is. It's good. I love that. All right, well, Ron, do you have any other questions for our guest for our interview?
One of the things I wanted to ask, you did mention already, which was kind of how you got into Lorcana, but I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about all like the different properties, and it really reminded me when like I first heard the announcement of Lorcana and I saw like the things they were releasing. It reminded me a lot of the game Kingdom Hearts. Did you ever play that or have any other like engagement into different Disney properties before?
So I've never played Kingdom Hearts, but the closest thing that I have played similar to this was Disney Infinity, the Toys to Life game. And they had all the different properties from Disney to Pixar to Star Wars to Marvel. And it was so awesome to be able to play with Iron Man and Ahsoka Tano and Donald Duck. And they were all integrated with the same type of artwork, which I imagine is similar to how it would be in Lorcana.
Nice. I would imagine Donald Duck would have a hard time keeping up with Iron Man, but
they find a way.
Yeah.
It's like in Smash Bros when Pikachu can keep up with Ridley or whatever. I don't know.
Sure,
they find a way.
Yeah.
That's amazing. All right. Well, thank you for answering our questions there, getting to know you a little bit more. We will definitely have links to any of your socials and definitely plug that podcast. And I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit more for our roundtable topic as well. But anybody interested, we, of course, will have those links in addition to plugging them later. We'll have those in the YouTube description and in the show notes for the podcast. So you can click those as well. But I think let's get into some news because there's a lot of news, I feel like. So let's jump into this. For our news, let's see, for Hearthstone, of course, we talked last week about they announced the next set, Festival of Legends. So there's been a bunch of card reveals happening. They also then this past week, just actually yesterday, as we're recording this, they announced that 2023 will be the year of the wolf. and they announced upcoming core set changes. They also released a Battlegrounds mid-season patch, which was a big patch with a bunch of changes for Battlegrounds, with patch 25.6.2. So a lot going on with Hearthstone right now. We have links for that Year of the Wolf core set and those patch notes as well for anybody interested in that. I don't know if either of you have some thoughts on this. I know, Ron, you're very big into Hearthstone, so.
Oh yeah, a ton of big changes Hearthstone's way that are coming. I just have to say offhand, I'm a little bit sad that they didn't bring back Unleash the Hounds to the core set. It's the Year of the Wolf, and you're still not bringing back my best boys? Come on. But honestly, I am pretty hyped about the way the core set looks, all the different cards that are coming back. There's some really cool ones. Ziliax is making a return, which is fantastic. Just a super iconic card. And I think they made a lot of good decisions with how flexible they're making it. I also really like how the devs are talking about like the plan to adjust core set cards if something happens to be out of balance, which doesn't seem to have been in their philosophy until now. So there's some exciting stuff on the horizon, and every time there's a new expansion cycle and core set rotation, all this stuff, the game can change dramatically and feel different, and it's a good time for a shakeup. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
No, I don't have many thoughts about it, but I will say this. Every time I listen to your podcast, it makes me want to start playing Hearthstone again. But I'm like conflicted because on the one hand, I want to stay like laser focused on, what I do with my Lorcana content. But I just have to say, every time I listen to you, I like go to the download page and I'm about to push that button.
That's it. I feel like that's another thing too with like the card games that I swear I have never met a card game player who's like, I can only play one and I've never even thought about playing another one. Like all of us are like, well, how many can we play without it being like too much? Especially when you get into content creation too, right? Because if it's something you love doing and then you're doing content, then you're like, well, what about this other card game? And then you want to compare them. And then you're like, oh, but that one has something that's appealing that I want to try. And then this one. And then, oh, but that one I could play in person. But then this one I could do online. And then it's so much. And you're like, all of a sudden you have like 30 games. And you're like, what am I doing? Why am I playing all of these card games? Just me? I don't know.
Don's a juggler extraordinaire. I couldn't handle even close to the amount of things that you do. I dabble in like Marvel Snap a little bit and play mostly Hearthstone, and sometimes like look over at some other card games like, oh, that might be interesting, but I don't know if I have time. Pick and choose as the case may be.
That's fair. And Marvel Snap, speaking of that, is the next thing that we have for our news, which on March 21st, they did drop their most recent patch. It included giving players more tokens. There's some shop changes that they put in. 5 cards dropping from Series 5 to Series 4. 3 cards dropping from Series 4 to 3. Tons of balance changes. I was looking, I was like, oh, okay, balance changes. And I think the last time I looked at a patch, it was like they changed 2 cards, 3 cards. This one was like 8 or 9 or something. I was like scrolling. I'm like, holy crap. There's a lot of changes. So there's a whole bunch of those changes. And then there are also all these card games doing so much content. They also have a variant rush going on right now that started March 22nd, running through April 4th. And every collector's reserve that you open has a chance for special and unique steampunk variants or titles.
Ooh.
I know. I'm like, oh, steampunk. Okay, maybe I need to open this up again. But I don't even think I'm at the point of getting collector's reserves. So also I'm like, do I want to do that? I don't know.
Uh-oh, back down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. Well, we also talked about last week how many cards are releasing expansions and new sets coming up. And yeah, there's a ton of them. Some of them already have been releasing, or they're in like Hearthstone, like mid-reveal season. Pokemon also has one. the Scarlet and Violet expansion is releasing March 31st, so that's coming up. Eternal also has Eternal the Devouring is going to be a 24 card set that's coming April 5th. And I believe, actually, shout out to Sailor Peter in our chat. He was telling me that I think it's like a week before their rotation as well. So they're getting these cards, and then like a week later, it's the Eternal rotation. We're getting Hearthstone's rotation coming up, like all sorts of stuff. And then Legends of Runeterra also has released a little bit. I'm going to say this is called Glory in Navori because I think it rhymes. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it rhymes, so that's how I'm going to say it.
I support
but
it.
that, yeah, all right. Let's
When
go.
in doubt,
Rhymes.
go with the rhyme. Absolutely.
Love it. Oh, my mistake. Okay, Peter is correcting me. That not the Eternal rotation. The set is coming a week before Hearthstone's rotation. Yes. Okay, got it. Yeah, see, this is the thing. There's too many card games. I don't know. Just why don't they all just? I don't know if that would be better. I was gonna say, why don't they all just release things on the same day? That might actually be worse. Let's not do that. No.
You don't want that.
I
Nobody
didn't
wants
complete the
that.
sentence. It didn't count. It didn't count.
We only have so much disposable income.
Yes, that's so true. But that Legends of Runeterra expansion is releasing on March 29th, which we also have some things that Ron will talk about for the competitive for Runeterra as well. And then, oh my goodness, the last thing that I have here for the news is the Soul Forge Fusion. They just dropped their first expansion, Battle for White Fang Pass. It launched March 23rd, which was yesterday as of our recording this. And it features new Forge-born abilities and over 10,000 new cards, including new card types like Exalt and Soulbind. One thing I think Ron and I, hopefully next week, a week from today, will be diving much deeper into Soul Forge Fusion. Who needs words in a podcast? We will be diving deeper into Soul Forge Fusion next week. But 10,000 cards, saying that like, oh, one expansion, 10,000 cards, like that sounds like a ridiculous amount of cards.
Yeah,
but
yeah. Sorry. One more time. An expansion, correct? How many?
Yes.
10,000.
Yes. Yeah.
My goodness.
Yes. So
well, you're not gonna lack for content in that game, right?
There you go.
No
Yeah,
way.
prepare yourselves for that. I think it's over 20,000 for the like base set, the initial game. Yeah. So yeah, it's a lot. But we'll dive into that and talk about that because of the way that the game works. That's why they have things being all different like that. But there's a lot of stuff coming out, a lot of things going on with all of these card games, and I'm sure there's even more because, as Jared, you mentioned, like the My Hero Academia. I know there's the Battle Spirit Saga stuff going on this weekend, right? That's launching soon. There's probably stuff going on with the One Piece TCG, Digimon TCG. Like, oh my gosh, there's just so many card games, but. There's a lot of news, and I'm just amazed, like, looking at all this, how many things, just for Hearthstone and Marvel Snap, just how many things each of them have going on in the last week or two. That's a lot of content. They're dropping a lot of stuff very continuously. And I know Legends of Runeterra had posted a bit earlier this year that they are also going to be really focused on quarterly cycles. They're going to be doing monthly updates. So like 1 month, the first month of whatever is like the new expansion. And then the second month of that cycle is some other update, and then a patch with some other stuff, So it's like monthly updates to all these card games, like continuous content. It's a lot. I'm just impressed with how much these card games are doing and how consistently that they are putting content out.
Yeah, you remember like 2 or 3 weeks ago when we had a somewhat smallish news segment, and we're like, I wonder what's cooking for these different games. Well, now we know. We're in that cycle for sure, where everyone kind of does their expansions and all this other stuff at the same time. The end of the first quarter into the second quarter type of thing, and it's ramping up. And speaking of other things ramping up, we have some competitive and organized play things to talk about as well. Starting off with Pokemon. Pokemon Charlotte Regional Championships are happening pretty much right now, March 24th through the 26th for TCG, VGC, and Go. Battle Spirits Saga launch events are also going on, starting right now as well, basically. Las Vegas, London, Melbourne, Australia, and Latin America with $350,000 prize pools and on-site pickup for product. That is, today through the rest of the weekend.
I have to say,
Oh, go ahead.
I live in Las Vegas, and as soon as we're done recording here, I'm going to go to the convention center and pick up some product for Battle Spirit Saga.
Absolutely, yeah, that's right. That's exciting.
How much are you getting?
I just bought one of each of the starter decks, and I might be influenced to buy a box when I'm there, but we'll see. I'll return and report.
Depends on how well they do at the launch event, huh? We'll see. For other competitive and organized play news, we've got some information from Yu-Gi-Oh! The 250th Yu-Gi-Oh! Championship Series, the YCS events, will be taking place in April 2023 in 3 different locations. Those events will feature the best Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game players from across the globe, dueling for a chance to be named a champion at these historic events. 3 YCS events taking place simultaneously on the same weekend of April 1st through 2nd, 2023. So keep an eye out for that. We also have Legends of Runeterra publishing their competitive 2.0 article March 17th that stated competitive seasons will begin at the start of each expansion and last 3 months, lining up with their quarterly release cycles. Each season will be full of ways to compete, including daily and new Ruthless Rumbles lasting the entirety of the season, and a Runeterra Open each month. Plus, this season will be the first opportunity for players to earn Runeterra points, their brand new yearly point system used to qualify players for the World Championship, starting with the first set of this year, which I believe is the Glory in Navori expansion, releasing in just 5 days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So lots more stuff in the competitive sphere to go along with all our regular announcement news and expansions and the whirlwind of activity that is going on at the moment.
I feel like we honestly could spend an entire episode or an entire roundtable topic just diving into that competitive system, because it's pretty fleshed out, at least seeming. They're doing these points now. There's all these different opens. There's these different things. The World Championship, they are going to be having 64 players in that World Championship at the end of the year.
Oh wow, it sounds a lot better than 8.
Yeah. Imagine
no Hearthstone jealousy here or anything. No big deal.
Imagine a competitive system. But I mean, to be on the other, it's weird because it's almost the opposite, I feel like, of Hearthstone. Obviously, Legends of Runeterra is not as old of a game as Hearthstone, right? But you have Hearthstone that kind of went full send on their competitive stuff early on, and for the first several years, right? They're we're gonna go big, we're gonna have all these events, we're gonna have opens and points and this thing and that, and add all this stuff together, and then in-person things, and then online stuff, and all the things. And Runeterra kind of had a smaller thing, and now they are kind of going the opposite direction of Hearthstone, where Hearthstone had to shrink it, and Runeterra is slowly building it up bigger and bigger. And as it said in there, this is the first time that they're doing a point type system as well in qualifying, which that's just, but 64 players in the World Championship. I saw that. It was yeah, that's, what a difference. 8 players for Hearthstone or 64 in the new Runeterra system.
different philosophies. We'll see how it works out for Legends of Runeterra, but definitely an exciting announcement to hear about, and we'll look forward to seeing who manages to rise to the top in that game.
Yeah. All right. Are we ready for our round table topic? Get into the meat here of our show. I am excited to talk more about Disney Lorcana with you, Jared. Okay, first though, can you give us like a bit of a background, like lead up, like for people who maybe haven't really heard of Lorcana, or maybe all they've heard is like, hey, Disney is making a card game. What is it looking like? What's the appeal? What do we know? Why are people hyped up?
Yeah, it's easy to um, look at the cards that have been released so far for Lorcana and see that they're selling for $10,000, $14,000 and be like, oh, this is just another MetaZoo. But those D23 collector cards were designed specifically, to be collectibles. As far as gameplay, the rules are going to be revealed later this spring. I'm thinking next month. Yeah, spring. But from what we've been able to gather, it seems to have some elements of magic mixed with Pokemon, because there's this mechanic in there called shift where you'll be able to take your base character and shift it to a stronger, more powerful character with different abilities. It's really hard to pin it down right now because we've just been piecing rules piece by piece. So where the community is really excited for the rules to drop, but the appeal of Lorcana, I think, is because we've all grown up with Disney. We've all grown up with these characters, watching these movies, and now we actually get to immerse ourselves in this world. And Ravensburger is the one who's producing this game, and they're putting as much attention to detail into these cards as Disney's known. And so not only are you getting this card game, but you're also getting this world that you get to delve into with its own story, its own background. And you can just tell the amount of care and attention that they're putting into this game. And for me, that's the thing that's exciting about it. And the other element right now is the community has just been really like positive and uplifting. Card game communities sometimes are notorious for not being that way, but for right now, at least the community that's being built right now, it's just been nothing but positive, and it's been really fun to be a part of.
It's great to hear.
Yeah.
I personally, I was also curious, since we don't really know too much about, how the mechanics of the game are going to function just yet. What are you, I guess, most excited for, or looking forward to the most, whether it's like a particular character or a type of gameplay that you would hope that they go with, or anything like that? Is there anything forefront of your mind that you're really excited about?
So the initial thing that immediately came to my mind when you asked me was, I really want an Oswald the Lucky Rabbit card.
Nice.
And I don't care if it's a chase card or if it's a secret rare, I'm going to be chasing that, because I love Oswald. So that was the first thing that came to my mind.
Love it. Everyone's got a favorite. For me, one of my absolute favorites was Unleash the Hounds and Hearthstone. I already talked about that. I'm still waiting for it to come back one of these days, but I get you. I get you for sure.
And the other thing that I'm excited for is there's 6 inks, is what they're called. So you think about the 5 colors in Magic, and you are able to include up to 2 inks into your deck. And I'm curious to see what the archetypes of these inks will be. And we have inklings of what the deck types will be. But as more cards get revealed, it's just been fun piecing this together to see exactly how this game is going to play out.
Yeah, that's one thing that I was excited about too. I know when they were first revealing like the images of the product, right? They're showing like, oh, here's like a starter deck, and you can kind of see it has like 2 characters on the front of each box, and I zoomed in and I'm looking at like the side of the box. I'm like, oh, what are those like colored symbols? It was like, okay, now I know. Like just from looking at the image, I'm like, okay, colors. All right, okay, cool. We can mix this. Like, all right, that's for me. That's definitely one thing that I like about games like Magic or Eternal or things like that, where you can kind of mix and match like that. Right there, it feels like a lot more deck customization and deck building than maybe something like Hearthstone that's just like you have hero, the hero, and you have that class card, and then neutrals, and then they have to create more range of different varieties within the class cards, whereas in those other games you can mix and match however you want them. So yeah, I was pretty excited when I saw that. I'm like, okay, cool. This is gonna be like really fun to take those different inks, the different types, and say however you want to build this. And you have that in Magic too, right? People who are like, I'm just a mono red player, or I love mono blue, or they like all of the colors, or they try to make a deck that's like all 5 colors combined. That flexibility is really fun, and I think especially with this being like Disney and Disney characters, I definitely think it's going to have a bit more of like that family friendly type of focus and making it a little bit more flexible and probably more accessible for a wider range of like ages and groups to play. And I think to me that flexibility of being able to mix and match and use kind of different stuff that you like kind of fits that.
Well, and just to be clear, you're allowed 2 inks per deck. So you're not able to take all 6. But exactly like what you're saying, this is something that they've said from the beginning is that they want to make this game family friendly. And so it's going to be, I mean, Ryan Miller, the designer, has said that it's going to be easy to understand, but difficult to master. And everybody says that. But the thing that's encouraging to me about this is that I will be able to play this with my kids. But at the same time, I'm going to be able to go to my local tournaments or go to regional tournaments and play with, people at a different depth of difficulty. Just seeing the cards that have been revealed already, you get to see, well, if I play Lady Tremaine, which was the card that was revealed yesterday, then I can pull, a Dragonfire back out of the discard pile and use that to banish the opponent's character. So it's fun for formulating these combos already and just theory crafting how this game is going to play out.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I love that you're so focused on the community aspect of it. I think that's where so many games like build up this real like love for the game and really enables it to carry on. So it's an excellent sign that already you have a very engaged community. And you mentioned something that we don't quite see maybe as often in other card game communities, from being diplomatic about putting it. The community seems very, very supportive, non-toxic, you might call it, which is fantastic to hear.
Yeah, I mean, we have people coming in all the time who are attracted just because of that. I mean, just today, I had somebody tag me in the Lorcana HQ Discord server, and they're like, I just listened to your podcast. We interviewed somebody who has never played a card game before, and this will be the first one she's getting into. And this person was like, it just feels different in here because people are positive and uplifting. So we don't have the uber competitive people in the Discord yet. And my hope is that the community is strong enough that when those people do come in, we're able to, maybe channel it into its own channel or just like stamp it out altogether. It's hard to say, but that's the vibe we're going for, especially if they're trying to go for the families.
Yeah. That makes sense. I will admit, I'm in the Discord, but I have not kept up in the Discord. I mean, I'm in like the maximum number of Discords, which is probably that's not a good thing. And I probably actually am like active in like 3 of them. But I think the max is like 100 Discords without getting Nitro. That's not great.
Wait, you're in the
But
Lorcana HQ Discord?
yeah.
Oh, I didn't
I
know
know.
that.
I think I said something like the first day or two that I was there, and then I like forgot that it exists because
Well,
just
I
not
think a lot of
active
people have
there.
forgotten about Lorcana, which is why I think once the rules drop, the hype machine will start kicking into gear, and that's when we'll see a lot of growth.
Yeah, that's another thing too is that we mentioned earlier about how these games are kind of doing these like monthly updates, quarterly expansions, right? They are trying to pump out content at a very consistent schedule. And I think we've seen that even in like one specific game, but then you see it across all of them. Interest really dips when, there's like people want the hype and then they want to play it, right? When you're revealing cards for a new expansion, like people want to hear about the new expansion, they want to see the new cards, and then they want to play the new cards. They don't want to hear about the expansion, wait 3 weeks, seeing nothing, get like 10 cards revealed, wait another 2 weeks. Like they don't want to wait, right? They want the hype, they see that it's exciting, and then they want it right then, or at least like very soon, right after the expansion. And I think that we've seen that with a lot of these card games that are coming out or being announced. And especially as we've started to get multiple card games per season or per year that are kind of big and gaining a lot of traction, that are also announcing, hey, we have big like tournament circuits, we're putting $1 million into our prize pool for the competitive year. And then people look at that, hey, $1 million, like that's appealing. And then they want to look further into the game. They want to find out more. They want to get to that, right? So they look into that because it's a hype thing. They're excited. But then if they look at that and they say, oh, cool, it's going to have $1 million, but there's only like one tournament for the whole year and it's in a country that I can't travel to or something, or that tournament is only 2 months away and they're just now announcing information on it and I don't have the funds to make a trip in 2 months from now. It's kind of a little upsetting. It's a little disheartening for players. So yeah, I hope that once the like rules come out, that there is kind of that consistent hype. I'm definitely interested to see how Lorcana kind of approaches this. It's like keeping the hype rolling because like you said, they said spring, quote unquote spring, like that's kind of the meme and the running joke now. Like, okay, spring, that they'll drop the rules, but then the game isn't launching until fall, right? It's coming out August, early September for most people, so that's kind of a long wait
Well, let
for
me
a lot
tell
of us.
you, they announced it at D23, which was September of last year.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was news articles about it in August. So it'll be almost a full year from announcement to release. And it has had a negative effect. I mean, there have been people who are like, I just want the rules. Why did you announce so early? And for like the first from September until about December, the official Disney Lorcana channel is just silent. That's when I started my meme a day because I was like, what else do we have to talk about? So, but I will say I love how they are interacting with the community on Twitter. The fact that they're willing to participate in the meme culture and the fact that they're willing to answer people's questions, I think that's really awesome. I mean, there's so much goodwill that's built up just from the company officially interacting with their fans. I wish the timeline could be sped up. Like, I really do. I don't know why they announced at D23. I don't know if Disney was wanting them to put something out there because it was the last D23 before it was announced. Like, I don't know what went into that decision, but I know that waiting has frustrated a lot of people. And I'm with you. I hope they have some way to keep the hype train rolling once the rules are announced.
Yeah. What I do want to also mention talking about like okay, D23, right? It's a big convention. They also have confirmed that they will be having some cool things. They're going to be showing some stuff off at Gen Con in early August, which I know I saw that you have now registered. You got your tickets for Gen Con?
Oh, I'm going. I am
That's
100%
hype.
there.
Heck yes. That's really exciting. I
That's
want to
going
go
to be
to
the
Gen
first
Con
place
so
to get
bad.
your hands on product. Like, I can't
I
not
know.
be there.
Right? I know. Look at you go. Like you're gonna be at the Battle Spirit Saga events today, getting your product early. You're gonna go to Gen Con, get Lorcana early. Like you're doing the thing. That's
Trend
exciting.
setting here. Love to see it.
I can't wait. And the other
Yeah.
thing too, on Twitter, Gamma, I can't remember what it stands for, but they're the ones that run the Origins Festival. They also have an expo, and it's here in Nevada in Reno, and they confirmed that Disney Lorcana will be there. So I'm hopeful we'll get some news
Oh,
next
really?
month.
When is that? Do you know?
So it's the end of April, like the 26th. I don't know. It's the last week in April. It's like Sunday through Wednesday. And
Okay.
yeah, I'm gonna see if I can. Actually, I'm going. I'm going to go there just to check it
Well,
out. It's so close.
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness. Well, that's exciting. I'm just I guess the showing product and kind of giving people that little bit of that taste of the product and stuff at conventions is one way to build up that hype that we were talking about, which, I mean, especially if there's going to be people who, potentially haven't heard of it and then they can see the product, maybe it gets them interested in it, or of course the people who already are interested and then they see it, they're going to want to be there anyways. But that seems like a great place to help promote, to help spread the word about the game, to get people to see it a little bit. But I want to talk for a minute about Gen Con. And I know you're going. You've never been to Gen Con. I saw, right? This is going to be your first Gen Con. I've never been, but I really want to go. But that's just a really exciting thing. It's a huge convention. If anybody hasn't heard, it's like a 4-day tabletop convention, like gigantic. I think they've been doing it for what, more than 50, is it 50 years more?
Yeah, I think you're right.
I
They've
think
been in
this,
Indy, I think, for 20 or 30 years, but it was in California before that.
yeah. So it's really exciting. I think they even have like big auctions and stuff to auction off games and different stuff. Fantastic. I want to go so bad. So yeah, that's in Indianapolis. I believe it's the first weekend of August. Is that when it's
It's
happening?
the August 4th through the
Yeah.
6th, I believe. Or it's somewhere
So
around there. Maybe the 3rd through the 6th.
yeah, that sounds something around there. Um, so the kind of timeline, right, is we're looking at the rules in quote unquote spring, whenever that is. And then in the early August, they'll be, having some stuff to showcase at Gen Con. Now, can you talk a little bit about they're doing a kind of staggered, is how I'm kind of phrasing it, a staggered like release. They're letting game stores, local game stores and stuff have product and kind of releasing it locally to places in August, but then it'll be at big box retailers, probably like, Walmart, Target, like all that kind of stuff. Like what, right at the beginning of September?
Yep. So the local game stores will get it August 18th. And I mean, there's been a lot of chatter online about availability of product. So what I've been telling people, if you're interested in playing Lorcana, contact your local game stores now so you can potentially get to the top of the pre-order list. Because I have a feeling it's going to be a hot ticket item. And then you're right, September 1st is when it launches in big box stores. And I don't know what that means, but I do know Ravensburger has a good relationship with Target and they have a good relationship with Barnes and Nobles. So I would not be surprised if it shows up there. And it will probably also show up at Walmart. But I don't know what form that takes, if it's just going to be the individual packs that you can buy. But that's kind of the timeline there.
Nice. Personally, I was also wondering, because I don't have a lot of information about Lorcana. Do you have an idea of like what the total amount of cards are going to be in the pool?
So they've confirmed that there will be 204 cards. So that's the base number. If there's going to be like secret rares or anything like that, we don't know, but confirmed there's 204 cards.
Okay, great.
And I think so far there's been about 20, 25 that have been revealed. So we're about 10% of the way there.
And as you mentioned,
Yeah.
the now I have seen some of the cards that got revealed for Lorcana, and I mean you're right, the art is gorgeous. So that's something to be really excited about as you see like hundreds more getting revealed. Like what favorite character is going to get what kind of stylistic art. I know you mentioned one specific one that you're hoping for, but is there anyone you think would like stand out the most art wise? Like if you could name like a particularly you know let's say eye catching character that you want to see.
So I'm a huge fan of Hercules. I would love to see Hercules and Megara and Pegasus. But of the ones that have been revealed so far, there's this thing going on right now called Lore Madness. That's kind of like March Madness. And they've taken 16 cards and had people voting on them. And Hades is this. So in Lorcana, there's three types of characters. There's Storyborn, which look like the characters from the movie. Dreamborn, which kind of look similar, but they're a little different. And then Floodborn, which look completely different. And so this Hades card, he's sitting on the throne of Olympus, on Zeus's throne. And he has this flowing golden hair. And so that's the one that people have been talking a lot about. But pretty much any piece of art that comes out, like even Lady Tremaine, Cinderella's evil stepmother, her artwork, you just look at it and you're like, hey, her cane kind of looks like a key, and her outfit, like it's more purple instead of red. She kind of has a steampunk vibe going on. So is this Dreamborn version of Cinderella going to be in like this steampunk world? So every piece of art has this story that is in it, like Stitch Rockstar. He's, in the movie, he wants to be Elvis, but in this card, he looks like a rock star, like he's, a fan of Queen or something. So every piece of art is kind of a standout. I mean, there are some that maybe don't stand out as much as others, but every piece has its own things. And then you look at the cards individually and you just see the amount of attention that went into them. Like there's one image that was released that shows the scene from like Hakuna Matata from Lion King, and it shows the three walking across the log. And you have two waterfalls on either side, and in the waterfalls you see the image of the elephant graveyard, and then the other one where he's running across the desert. And each of these are times when Simba was protecting people, and the image said, yellow amber glimmers protect their own. So just seeing the amount of attention that went into these cards and these arts, it's hard to pick one that stands out.
Well, that's an excellent answer. That was awesome to hear. I love hearing the passion that you have for the game as you're describing that too. That's fantastic. Definitely something to just we got to still be patient. It's not coming out for a little bit longer, but it sounds like a really exciting thing to wait for.
It will be here before we know it, and then this will just be a bad memory. But I will say this too. The thing that I love about this period of the game is that I'm making connections with people, and I'm becoming friends, and it's not based on like competitiveness. So being able to build that community and being here at the ground level as we're establishing that culture it's just been awesome.
It has. I feel like even you and I, right? I think we mentioned this probably before we started recording, but you and I have been chatting on Twitter, and we've been connecting, and that's how, I've been talking to you, and then it's like, you're doing all this content, so much about the game, and I was like, we just need to get you on this show. Like, you just need to come on here and talk about it too.
Well, let me tell you, I never understood Twitter before Lorcana. Like, I tried to get on Twitter, and I read all the books and like post 3 to 5 times a day, post one personal thing, I'm like, but once Lorcana came out, it was just natural. And I've created an account in September, and I think I'm over 6,000 tweets already. It's
Nice.
ridiculous.
It's amazing how much you can post when you're really interested in something and want to talk about it.
Exactly. So when people are like, "Be yourself on Twitter," now I understand. Myself is posting 1,000 tweets every 3 weeks.
You are posting memes. That's great. Love it. I did also want to talk to you not only about the memes and that stuff you're posting, but you have started a podcast for Lorcana as well. So, I mean, can you just kind of like, I know we'll plug it later, but can you kind of talk about that and like how I've tried to start podcasts very kind of said like the ground floor of game modes or games. And sometimes it's really difficult because you either feel like you don't have enough content to talk about each week if you're publishing weekly, or you're like, how do we want to do this? Do we only record every other week because there's just not enough going on? Or you don't want to sound repetitive. So can you just talk about like what has that experience been like starting the podcast and coming up with ideas and topics and what you talk about as this is like kind of not, a thing that a lot of people know about. The game's not even out yet. What does that look like for you?
I have experienced all those struggles that you're talking about. How do we come up with content every week? How do I not sound repetitive? The genesis for my podcast is I always have wanted to get into some form of content creating, and podcasting was kind of my comfort level. I never thought I'd be doing something like this. And so my podcast went through a couple different iterations. I tried doing it on my own, and then I was like, maybe I'll do short form podcasts where I do it for 10 minutes. But the name of my podcast is Citizens of Lorcana. And the idea behind it has stayed the same. Lorcana is this world that has all these characters from the Disney world in it. And we're invited to be a part of that. And like we're part of that story with them. And that's kind of the message that I wanted to convey. And the more that we produce this podcast, the more I think, every one of us, I guess the analogy I like to use is there's that humans of New York type thing. Like we're all citizens of Lorcana. We all have our stories. We all have our journeys. And so I have a co-host. His name is James Riley. And he approached me because he could tell I was struggling doing this podcast on my own. He runs the unofficial San Diego Comic-Con podcast. So he's been doing that for 10 years. And he kind of took me under his wings. And we just basically what we do now is we find people who have stories to tell. Like this last podcast, we had on 3 guests because they're all really interested in the story side of Lorcana. And James and I are interested in that, but we're by no means like obsessed with it. And we had a conversation with that. And the podcast before that we had on, her name was Adara, and she has never played card games before. So we shared her experience. And James and I are approaching this because we're both relative newbies. Like, yeah, I've played card games, but I've never really played competitively. And James has never played competitively either. So our goal is to take our listeners on this journey with us. From TCG like newbies or amateurs to getting to a point where we're able to be proficient or competent in this TCG game and the stories of other people along the way. So that's the idea behind it. That was a very long elevator pitch right there.
That's all right. I loved it. I loved it.
It's a good concept behind it.
However, I will
definitely
say
support.
the biggest struggle is exactly like what you said. I set out having this being a weekly podcast, and doing this, I have nothing but respect for people who are able to do this because number one, it's harder to come up with topics week after week than people might think. And number two, you have to show up. And number three, you have to edit. And all those things take time and patience. And we've had hiccups, like we record over Zoom. And I can't tell you how many times I finished my recording and it's like uploading and then it crashes. It's happened like 3 times. And so luckily James has it recorded on his end and he's able to upload it in Google Drive. But I would be devastated if it was just gone and we had gone through all that work. So, I mean, for people who are consistent at this, I have nothing but respect for them.
Yeah. Well, I will. This not sponsored, by the way, unless they would like to sponsor us. But StreamYard is what we've been using to do this, and they've also pretty recently added in the local recording. They promote that with those local recordings, even if somebody like has kind of crappy Wi-Fi, their camera maybe gets pixely or they cut out a bit, like it's honestly essentially as if recording through like Audacity or something else, but it does it for you. And the audio and the camera and stuff is good quality at the end. I cannot recommend this highly enough, and it's completely free to use. So I would definitely recommend that.
This is my first experience with StreamYard, and I said it even before we started recording. It feels so smooth, and I haven't heard any audio glitches, so I'm impressed. It's something that I'm going to look into when we're done here today.
Yes, I'll send you the link. You can check it out.
StreamYard, if you're out there,
yeah.
maybe a sponsorship. We just got you a new person.
That's right. They liked my tweet last week when I was testing out for the first time the multi-stream, because now I'm streaming this live to YouTube and Twitch at the same time. Never done that before, and they added that pretty recently, and it's worked amazingly. So I have been incredibly impressed with it. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. And I will say as well, talking about the podcast and kind of your idea with that, it's almost a very similar thing to kind of the concept of this show, where, essentially this is a roundtable, right? It's supposed to be, a variety of people. It's supposed to be, that roundtable of like all of the card games, like have a spot at the table. And we hear from people who are highly competitive, right? We, a while back, we got to interview Nathan Stoyer, who won the world championship for Magic.
That was a great one.
Thank you. Yeah, he was amazing, man. That he has so much knowledge. But we've also interviewed people who are like, hey, I'm kind of newer to card games and I've just been getting into it. And then I deep dived into content. And it's that variety, I think. And that's part of the culture of card games and that community that you were talking about, is that there are so many different people who play card games. I feel like, Ron, do you know a lot of like Disney characters? Are you a big Disney fan?
I don't know a ton of Disney characters, but it's not like you can avoid knowing it. Disney's everywhere. I've always been a huge Star Wars fan my whole life. Technically that kind of counts, I guess, because it's Disney now. But there's the classics like Mickey and the crew around Mickey, basically. Like it's kind of like the old style, like original Disney stuff. And then there's all the newer stuff. There's the things that I grew up watching personally when I was a kid, like from the 90s, Aladdin and Lion King and Little Mermaid and all these other like properties. And then there's newer stuff that they're releasing. So I mean, it's all but impossible to not know about it. And if you watch it most of the time, like there's heartwarming stories or something for everybody. You can usually find something that you're going to connect with. So yeah, there's a lot of great Disney properties out there.
Yeah, because I will say I feel like I'm kind of coming into Lorcana from the opposite side. Or like I know, I guess, a little bit about Disney, right? I like you said, okay, I grew up and I saw Hercules and I saw Aladdin and Little Mermaid and like that. But honestly, I don't feel like I've been seeing some of this. Jared, you were talking earlier and I'm just like, who's that? What? Who?
Neither of you know who Oswald is, do you?
I Googled it as soon as you said it. I had no idea. I'm gonna be honest. I Googled it. I was like, okay.
Same. I looked it up right away.
I have no idea. But like, I'm coming in it from the I love card games, and I have 25 plus years of God, I age myself every time I say that, of like card games. And I'm just like, I love card games. I love trying all the different games and seeing what all of the games have to offer and how they continuously try to adapt different mechanics and try different things. I played World of Warcraft before Hearthstone came out. I was a big Blizzard fan. Like I played, StarCraft and the Warcraft games and World of Warcraft and all that. So then it was like, oh, Hearthstone. Okay, cool. I'm going to try this. So for me, I knew a lot of those characters. But so far, even some of the cards that have been revealed, I'm like, I have no idea who that character is, which has been kind of an interesting experience for me looking at, starting with Hearthstone. And I heard people who said, oh, I got into Hearthstone and I've never played WoW. I don't know who these characters are. And I always thought that was weird. And now I'm on the other side of it going, I'm looking into Lorcana and I have no idea who these characters are. Like, I have no idea the story behind this. You were talking about the, what did you call it?
Dreamborn, yes.
Dreamborn and the Floodborn. And I was like, I don't even know what that means. I don't know these characters. Like, what are the colors? Are they different? What does that mean? Like, that means nothing to me, which is, I'm almost like, this is a very weird feeling for me. But I love card games, and I'm so interested in seeing how this is compared to other card games, and I'm still like really invested. I really want to play Lorcana and find out these mechanics in quote unquote spring, whenever they decide that is. So it's just like this really weird juxtaposition of all these different people from the community. Some people who are attracted to it because they love Disney and they love all these characters, and then there's people like me who are like, I don't know who the characters are at all, but I'm still excited.
Well, the hope is, I think, that the art will bring people in, especially people that have never played card games before. Because as you said, even though you're not familiar with, all the characters that I said, most people, you can't help but go about your life without running into Disney. And most people have a positive association with it. So I think the hope is that people are attracted to that, but the gameplay gets them to stay. And that's what we're all waiting on. That's what we're all waiting on, is for the rules to see how good the gameplay is. Because that's what's going to get people to stay in the end.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, for however amazing everything else might look and the recognizable characters, you need to have a game that people enjoy playing and brings people back. I'm sure, there's a lot of talented people working behind the scenes to make sure that that is something that people will enjoy. So, until that point, it's just speculation, but I would have no doubts that it's going to come out and be an enjoyable thing to play.
Yeah. And another reason why I'm so invested in this game is because I believe it has what it takes to stick around. So many games have come and gone, but Disney or Lorcana has the right IP. It's going to be supported by people who are collecting. So people are going to open the boxes and they'll keep the rares, but then they'll be able to flood the market. So the secondary market should be pretty healthy, I think. And I don't think it will ever displace any of the big three, but I think it will earn its spot among there. I mean, obviously, I'm the biggest Lorcana homer there is out there, but I see the potential there. I feel like this is going to be something that transcends the card game space and earns its spot up there among the big four, the big three.
I'm excited to see how plucky underdog Disney can perform in a new arena. I hope they have enough resources.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. It'll be touch and go. Maybe they need some sponsors.
Well, and to be fair, Ravensburger is the one who bought the license, so there isn't necessarily Disney money behind it, but it does have Disney support behind it. So, right. I mean, they've already confirmed that they're going to sell Lorcana in the Disney parks. Like, the amount of attention that's going to draw to the game is it's unparalleled, and it's already targeted the kind of people that would be interested in a Disney card game. So, I mean, the support will be there, and obviously the dream is that the world competition or the national competition will be at Disneyland or Disney World. That would just be so cool. But I mean, so it doesn't necessarily have the resources of Disney behind it, but it does have the support. So I think it will have the staying power.
I mean, I'm thinking about the optics of that, like how it would look to promote that game. I know, like, different spots in Disney World, right, aren't really accessible to the public generally, like that giant castle, right? Wouldn't that be a great spot to like have people go into that giant castle in Disney World and put on a show to like have a showdown for that game? I mean, it's one
That'd
of
be
the
so
things that could
cool.
be incredible.
That would be the first time that I would ever actually be interested in going to Disney World or Disney. I'm sorry. Okay, so like I'm not like the biggest Disney fan, but also I don't like roller coasters. I don't
Ooh.
like rides and stuff. I'm scared of heights. I don't like the fast speeds, and I get motion sickness super easy. So I'm like, I don't really do
Plus, you're not a
that.
huge Disney fan, so that adds
Yeah.
up.
So I'm like, I have no interest in that. Now, like, take me to TCG Con. Come on. Oh yes,
Con.
like that's
Yeah.
that coffee convention. I don't know, like something like that. That's my people, right? Take me somewhere where there's coffee or card games. I am there. Like I will be all over the place. Like so excited. But roller coasters not my thing. But if there's like a card game world championship going down, like maybe I'll
Then,
rethink that.
then all of a sudden you're there. Yeah.
I'm
That
like,
sounds
maybe it's
Disney
not so
World.
bad.
First ever trip to Disney World. Let me see the cards. I grew up in Florida, so I've visited Disney World a good time or two. It was cheaper to go there. It was close. I've been on quite a few different like Disney rides, and Disney World's a pretty exciting place to visit. But if you don't really like roller coasters or Disney properties, it sounds like you made the right choice to avoid it for yourself.
Yep. So there was a question in there that says, is Lorcana only a physical card game? The answer to that is yes, for now. I mean, I would not be surprised if this game is a smash hit, if 3 to 4 years down the line they don't have an online client like Magic. This is purely speculation, but initially it's physical only, and I think the idea behind that is they have repeatedly said that they want this to be a family game. However, the one of the creators, Ryan Miller, he rose up through the ranks through the organized play program in Magic. So organized play is near and dear to his heart. And that's another thing we're waiting on, is to see what kind of organized play Lorcana has. They say that it will be robust. So we'll see how robust it is.
That's such an interesting word to use for a competitive card game. Like robust. Okay, like what does that mean? I don't really know. We don't know what spring means, so I'm curious to see what robust means.
Well, they did say on their Twitter that they consider spring to be Q2, and Q2 starts in April. So,
okay, so April, right? Okay, that's what I heard.
There you go.
I'm just hopeful. I want to know. I want to know more. I want to know how to play. Well, I think that probably will wrap up our main discussion, unless either of you have anything else that you really want to mention.
Nope.
Yeah, I learned a lot about Lorcana for the time being, and excited to hear future news about it. I'll definitely be keeping an ear out to hear about what the rules are going to be, because it's going to be a very exciting moment to see what they end up with.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right. Well, our next segment here is our lightning round questions that we'll be asking Jared here. Ron and I will alternate back and forth asking these. Now, we have to ask at least one that's not in the show notes, because you had access to these. You probably could have peeked at these early. You've listened to the show. You've probably heard them before.
Guilty.
So we'll have to ask one that's definitely off the cuff. But we'll go ahead here and kick things off and do these lightning round questions if you're ready.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. If you were a card from any of the card games that you've played, which one would you be?
The first one that popped to my mind was from the old Star Wars Decipher card game. It was Darth Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith. And as a kid, you have limited money and resources, but this was like the card that I wanted for my deck because it was super powerful, and it was just a cool looking card. So that's the one that came into my mind.
Can't go wrong with Darth Vader. That's an awesome answer. Next question, favorite type or archetype of deck to play for you?
I don't know if I've ever sat down and thought about this, but I find myself gravitating towards aggro decks.
Nice. Living the Smork life.
Best.
I support it.
Yes.
you
I
got
do
fans
hope
right
to
here.
branch out with Lorcana. I will say that.
Yeah, there you go. All right. The next one is what is one goal that you have for yourself in the card game sphere?
That's a great question. I actually have a list of 5 goals. The first one was that I want to meet the creators of Lorcana, Ryan Miller and Steve Warner, and that's kind of my one of my top goals. Yeah.
Awesome. Next question is, do you prefer physical or digital cards?
I'm going to cop out on this one. I prefer the convenience of digital cards, being able to play whenever, wherever you want. But I love holding physical cards. There's something about that. And then playing in person, I prefer that. I prefer the convenience of the digital card games, but I prefer the in-person playing if I were able to choose.
That's not because I feel that same exact way. So I'm going to say that's not a cop out answer. That's a totally legit, reasonable answer. It's exactly how I feel, and I
nice host.
live in like a smaller place too, so it's hard to actually get to do like in person stuff. So it's nice to have the digital cards there to at least still be able to play cards. So yeah, I'm with you there. Okay, how about a question here? If let's make this Lorcana related. All right, so if you could come up with 3, you talked about the inks earlier, right? So if you could do 3 inks in a deck instead of 2, which 3 would you do and why?
That's a great question. I really like the blue ink. It's called Sapphire. I just love the color of it, but it also has these amazing cards. Aurora is one of them, and she has this ability called Ward. I forget the equivalent in Magic, but it protects all the other characters on the board from being targeted by magic spells. Like they have to be targeted directly. So I like Sapphire. The other one I'm leaning towards is Amethyst, which is purple. Um, maybe it's because it has the most cards revealed so far, but like Elsa, she has the ability to freeze your opposing, your opponent's character. And if I were to throw in a third one, I really like the steel cards that have been revealed. There's Captain Hook, the forceful duelist. He just looks menacing, and I love the fact that Captain Hook finally doesn't look like a buffoon. But his ability is really cool too. When he challenges an opponent, his attack defense is 1-2, but when he is challenging, it goes up to a 3-2. And then they revealed a Tinkerbell Tiny Tactician, and her ability is that you get to draw a card and discard 1 card. And I think that's a really cool ability. But the other one, they released Gantu from Lilo and Stitch, and he has that ability where characters that cost 2 and less aren't able to attack him. So I like the big, strong characters, and it sounds like the cards I'm liking are more of a control style play, but I feel like they haven't really revealed too many in that aggro vein. I mean, Captain Hook is kind of aggro, but those are the 3: Sapphire, Amethyst, and Steel.
Nice. And that's like a for now, at least, too, because you might see a whole bunch new cards come out that change your mind.
Right. We're only at 10%, so that is. I reserve the right to amend my statement there.
Nice.
Perfect.
I have one last question too for the lightning round that was not in the show notes, and that occurred to me earlier in the show actually because of the card that you mentioned you liked. So I want to hear if there's a story behind it. Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. You mentioned that's a card you really want to see. What drew you to Oswald?
I am a sucker for Walt Disney himself. And I've read just about every biography and watched every video. Um, the thing that I love about Oswald is that Oswald was his first real popular character before Mickey Mouse. And so you have this character that could have propelled Walt Disney to fame. But when he went to go renegotiate his contract with Universal Studios, they said, "We want to pay you less money and we want you to make more cartoons." And so he actually gave up his creation of Oswald. And on the way home, the story goes, that's when he created Mickey Mouse. And so the thing that I love about Oswald is he was the foundation for the future of Walt Disney, but he got lost to time due to the fact that the Walt Disney Studio didn't have control over him until 2006. This is the craziest thing. Until 2006, there was a sports broadcaster, Al Michaels, who was broadcasting for ESPN, which Disney owns, but he wanted out of that contract. And so what Disney did was they said, okay, we'll trade you to Universal, but in exchange, we want the rights back to the Walt Disney produced Oswald cartoons. And so that's when Oswald came back into the fold, and they created like these video games called Epic Mickey that focused on these forgotten characters like Oswald and Horace Horsecollar and Clarabelle Cow. And I don't know. I love the fact that Oswald is this kind of forgotten character, but he's the one that really set Walt Disney on the path to where he would be today.
That's really cool. I'm so glad to hear about that. That's awesome.
Wow. Yeah. That,
Yeah,
that
he
was
has
a lot.
pretty
I've
wild
never
story.
known. Dang. Wow. Well, thank you so much for going through those lightning round questions with us.
It wasn't very lightning. I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was so
It's the
long-winded.
best. That's okay. That's okay. We threw extra questions at you, you know, so it's all good. But now we're at the point where we definitely would like you to plug where people can find you, find out more, go see the incredible memes. And by the way, speaking of that, I'm so glad that you listed Steel, because after all of the Steel memes, if you didn't say Steel, I was gonna have to be like, wait. So I'm glad you said Steel.
So the story behind the Steel memes is that every other ink had at least 3 cards revealed, and Amethyst had 5, but Steel had 1 card revealed, and that was Captain Hook. So we made these memes a day until they revealed another Steel card. But as far as where people can find me, I'm mostly active on Twitter. My handle is, I mean, if you just type in Citizens of Lorcana, you will find me right away. I have a picture of Mickey Mouse as my profile picture. I'm also active in the Lorcana HQ Discord server. But of course, the plug I want to give is for my podcast of the same name, Citizens of Lorcana. We put out a podcast weekly. We upload every Friday. And yeah, we're just, our goal is, I was talking to my co-host about this, like, we're not trying to get big and famous. Well, it'd be nice if we got, you know, popular, but that's not our goal. Our goal is to just talk about Lorcana and try to take people on this journey with us.
Fantastic.
Absolutely.
So with that will conclude our show. Thank you all for joining us this week. Thank you, Jared, for joining us. And
My pleasure.
If you viewers out there, or if you also know anyone who might be interested in joining us, please reach out to us. You can email us at tccgroundtable@protonmail.com. Follow us on Twitter, TCCG Roundtable. Use our top pinned tweet for a link to our Discord, or use the link in the description or show notes. You can check out the video version of this video here, this podcast, at YouTube on dragonrider TCCG. And you can find us everywhere you find audio podcasts. Also, a quick shout out, as always, to our affiliate Inked Gaming, who you can find their link in our notes as well. You can find me individually at Twitter at Ron_HS. I also primarily stream on Twitch, RonMexico HS. And you can find me on YouTube at RonMexico HS as well. Dragonrider, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at DonnieDK. That's DAWNIEDK. You can find me on YouTube, Twitch, and even like TikTok a little bit. But you can find me there doing all sorts of stuff. Dragonrider TCCG. And then, of course, outside of this podcast, also talking every week on the Dr. 3HS podcast, where we focus on standard Hearthstone.
Awesome. Thanks again, everyone, and we will see you at the roundtable.